We didn't want to just rebuild the Louisiana that we had. What would a better Louisiana look like? When the storms happened, because they affected everyone, it actually allowed us to have some conversations that we just couldn't have before. What's going to be your Katrina story? Are you going to be a hero, or are you going to be a part of the problem?
Most people woke up at historic moment and realized not only had the storm come through, but the levees had broken. And there were sights that we'd never seen before and no one could ever have imagined. The storms, if you will, of racism and financial disparity hit the shores of Louisiana many generations before Katrina and Rita did. Just literally hours and days after the levees broke and Katrina hit land. We were founded as Louisiana Disaster Recovery Foundation.
I was living in New York at the time, working for the Ford Foundation, but I had received a phone call saying money is coming in from all around the world, and the governor wants to set up a foundation, and we'd like for you to come and help us think this through. And we determined that we really needed to set up a separate foundation for the state. The government couldn't manage it. We did everything that we could do to assure people who were sending money that the money would go for purposes that it was intended. And I started calling people. Some were expatriates, some were people who lived in the state and had evacuated. Some were people of national stature.
As a native of Louisiana, I felt a passion to return to help. Hurricane Katrina gave a human face to poverty and inequality. We had to emphasize the importance of equity and inclusion in rebuilding Louisiana. Our staff went out where the people were, asked them about their strengths and their aspirations. We saw leadership emerge to empower the community to participate in the deliberations about their future.
When the storms happened and I got the call to come and help support the foundation, my first question was, will we be able to build it to work? And the answer was absolutely. Housing was a critical issue. One of the most striking policy pieces that kind of happened right after the storms, it was the Bring New Orleans Back Commission. And I'll never forget, like, my friends from New Orleans had this visceral reaction to, like, my house is a green space. This idea that some group of people were planning the city of New Orleans without the people of New Orleans. And so one of the things that we were able to do was really create a space and a forum to say that that was not gonna happen that way. Through the Neighborhood Organizing and Planning Fund, we really gave them the tools, and then they really got into it and did the hard work of rebuilding their communities, rebuilding their neighborhoods. Of my entire career in philanthropy, it is the work that I'm the most proud of.
The impact that the foundation has had, I believe, is tremendous. While there was a lot of emphasis on recovery funds for homeowners, there wasn't much for small businesses to recover, and that's a necessary part of community redevelopment. I began working with the Collaborative for Enterprise Development to basically form a continuum of services for small businesses that were trying to recover, and everything from mom and pop businesses to those that were poised and ready for venture capital.
Magazine Street, Oak Street, Frette Street, all those key corridors, that was LDRF funding. That actually was the flexible funding to go identify those early stage companies and those key areas that recovered the city. I remember coming back right after the city was opened up, and we decided the first thing we had to do was to help entrepreneurs. And LDRF came in with very flexible funding and says, we trust you, and go find those great people that are going to rebuild the city. We were able to provide direct grants to the businesses recovering, direct loans and technical assistance. To me, when they write the story on the recovery of New Orleans, that funding by LDRF was a catalyst to the whole entrepreneurial movement that you now see in New Orleans.
We were able to help more than 3,000 businesses. We were able to develop more than 10,000 units of safe and affordable housing, an amazing amount of work. The then Louisiana Disaster Recovery Foundation embarked on a journey asking the question, what would or could the future look like? And what came out of that process was this idea that we really should attempt to create a more permanent philanthropy that would be focused on inequity and inclusion, had a social justice mission, being a solution partner, so that we can advance leadership development, continue to invest in people in ways that we saw were really creating change in community.
When Unity was experiencing difficulties, the Foundation for Louisiana was able to donate Unity $200,000, which was tremendous. In 2007, 11,600 homeless persons on the street. In 2014, 1,170. It saved human lives. It doesn't get any better than that in terms of accomplishing a goal.
There weren't a lot of folks really focusing on equity and economic development, but the foundation really, I think, understood what we were trying to do, how to link economic development with real estate development. We couldn't just put a grocery store in this area. What we really wanted to do was have access with education and have access with other resources. That was really all about lowering barriers. It's been an incredible partnership, and I think the Refresh project, which has been sort of the signature project of Broad Community Connections, is a real testament to that.
Preserving culture and community. What we've seen a lot of is indigenous people, if you will, in New Orleans and across the state, where people come to this community. Lots of tourism, lots of financial transactions dependent on those cultures. But the people who own those cultures rarely get to participate in those economies.
We were able to offer some trainings to some of the culture bearers in the LEAD program. Information about how culture bearers in particular, who are holding cultures sometimes rooted in different ethnicities and races of people, how we can strengthen the work of actually maintaining culture and tradition.
The foundation came in and they began to talk about how they could help the Mardi Gras Indians themselves coming to the forefront. I had the opportunity to become a part of the foundation's programming. By collaborating with people from all over the city, we were able to realize that what we had was a jewel.
FFL's commitment to preserve voices in the spirit of the people who maintain indigenous cultural traditions that emanate is a model for other organizations.
I've seen what happens when you invest in people. I think Louisiana's people are its most valuable resource.
This is a story that people will tell for a very, very long time. How the people fought back. They fought back because there's a resilient culture that lives here. We fought back because there's a way in which we know and we understand the need to be able to take that deep breath and try just a little bit harder.
The soul would have no rainbows if the eyes did not have tears. I think that sort of captured it. The people were resilient because they had the faith that someday hope in history would rhyme and to rise from the adversity better than they were before.
We came into being because of the largesse of people around the world who thought Louisiana was very important and they're too special to be lost. Now it's time for Louisianans to give. We're also welcoming and encouraging of people outside the state to give. FFL still remains the only foundation in this state that is committed to policy change, advocacy, and actual strategies that will help communities to be more self-sufficient and inclusive.
The vision for the Foundation for Louisiana going forward is to continue to make investments that are responsive to communities. And as long as we're investing in people in ways that elevate and lift them up and make them and their families and communities stronger, we know that we're going to be doing the right thing.